To create a new character, we can do this in multiple places. We can select the button on the splash screen, Create New Character, or we could use the menu option found under File, or if you have martial law installed, you could create a first level template of a character and tweak it to your specifications. In the first section, you will see two areas. The first area contains pictures or icons of various books you have installed. In our case, Harp Fantasy, Martial Law, and College of Magics. And on the right side, we have some preliminary information like name, sex, stats, and some defaults. The left-hand side can be used to include and/or exclude books from the character making procedure. For example, maybe I don't want to use the Martial Law tables or College of Magics tables in making my character sheet. So I can click on the Using Book button to gray them out. In our case, these buttons are already grayed out, indicating that we are not using them. I want to use them in our character creation process, so I click on the button to make it green, indicating that we will use this book in our character creation process. The right side is straightforward. The last two select boxes indicate what default book you want to use for a particular database file. For default rulebook, this indicates the main rulebook you are using for your game. Every book contains the same database files, but not all of them contain information. In your main rulebook database, all database files do contain information. Martial Law and College of Magics add to this information, and in some cases can replace that information, like with critical tables and armor. I select Harp Fantasy from my main rulebook, as it is the only main rulebook available to me at this time. For default defenses, I select Martial Law because I installed the book for the defenses and combat tables. Clicking on Next Screen will take us to the next section. Here we add race information to our character. To select a race, click on the area containing the race information, and a window will appear showing you a more detailed description of the race, including some traits, appearance, lifespan, culture, statistics, and talents. If you want this race to be your primary race, then select as primary, and this race will now be added to your character. You will notice there are two more buttons, Select as Greater Blood and Select as Lesser Blood. These selections only appear when you already have a primary race selected. To add a race to your character as Greater or Lesser Blood, first select a race as primary, then open another race and select it as Greater or Lesser Blood. For Lesser Blood characters, you can select up to 2 characters. For Greater Blood races, you can select only one additional race. Once you have finished adding a race to your character, click on Next Screen to add talents to your character. These talents are selected based on the race you selected. If you selected Human, then you will see 4 talents, even though you can only select 3 from this section according to the rules. If you created a character with 2 races, one being a Greater Blood race, this section will have 6 talents, from which you can only select 3. If you created a character with a Lesser Blood race, then this section will have 9 talents, from which you can select 3. If you do not know what the talent is, you can select on the information icon, which will drill into the database and show you the description of that talent. Select each talent by toggling the switch to On. To add a profession, it works like adding a race. Click a profession button to open up the description of that profession. I will click on Cleric. I will see a window with some profession information displayed. With Cleric in the favorite categories, I will need to select 2 additional favorite categories myself, as the database has this profession set up to have the user choose the last 2 favorite categories. If you have College of Magics installed, you can use the select box provided to select a Cleric circle, which will automatically fill in these favorite category choices for you. Selecting a Cleric circle will also build your custom Cleric sphere automatically. I will select True Spear and then select the profession. You will see that I have a picked badge for the profession and another button, Configure Sphere. Clicking on the Configure Sphere button will show me all the spheres and spells associated to each sphere that are coming from the database. Any spheres with a check mark next to it indicates that these spells have been selected to insert into my custom cleric sphere. All spells selected here are going to build my cleric sphere, even if I have selected spells from a different sphere, say the mage sphere. If you can further customize these selections if you want, by simply toggling off and on spells that for example, toggling off spells that do not fit your character sphere, and then toggling on spells by adding spells that you do think fit that sphere. I'm going to do this by adding a few spells from Warrior Mage, and then selecting the same number of spells I select here to remove from other places. I'm basically trying to create a Warrior Mage-like cleric. If you did not select a cleric sphere, or perhaps do not have College of Magics installed, then what you are going to have to do is select spells manually that you will like to add to your custom cleric sphere. You can do that by simply selecting spells from the cleric sphere first, and then selecting any additional spells from additional spheres. The program will tell you how many spells you can add according to the rules associated with the database. The next step allows you to adjust your statistics. The statistics are initialized using one of the three options of random selection, allocation of 550 points, or allocation of 500 plus 10 D10 points. The default when you start AutoHARP3 for the first time is allocation of 550 points. This is the recommendation of the authors. You can adjust this default from the preferences. If you selected a human, you will need to add your racial bonuses here. Adjust your stat values until you have reached the number of points necessary to allocate. Adjust the special bonuses if necessary. If you created a greater blood race, those points will show up here as well. Next up we have cultures, and this is how adolescent ranks will get added to your character sheet. Select the culture that fits to your character. Like race and profession, clicking on the culture button will show a detailed description of that character, including the adolescent ranks you are adding to your character. Next we have profession ranks. Clicking on a particular category, it will expand to show all the skills and subskills associated with this category. You will see the skill name on the left, and then an area on the right to add ranks. This area has a green button to add ranks, and a red button to remove ranks. In between this green and red button, this number indicated is the number of profession ranks you have added to the skill. The number on the far right indicates the number of ranks that this skill has in general. You will need to go into each category and add the specified number of ranks in order to continue to the last step. Some skills have a plus icon next to it. This indicates that this skill has subskills. Click on the plus icon to expand and show the subskills. Add ranks like you would to any skill. Finally, we have adolescent ranks, which has the same UI as profession ranks. This time, the value between the green and red buttons is the number of adolescent ranks you have added to this skill, and the far right number again indicates the number of ranks the skill has in general. Once you have finished, clicking Next will complete your character sheet. I recommend to save at this point by clicking on the Save Character button found in the header. Type in a file name to save your character sheet. Once saved, we can now start with adding levels and adjusting certain properties of the character.